Hi, I'm Dr. George Yancey. Let's shatter some paradigms. And the paradigm I want to share today is leading collaborative conversation discussions. I'm going to do something a little bit different than I normally do. Normally I have a lecture where I'm trying to detail out some interesting observation I've made, or I'm making an argument for something, or something of that nature. It's more of a lecture style. Today, I'm going to do more of a how-to-do style. The reason why I'm doing this is I want my channel to not only be a place where we can have good conversations, but to be a service. And one of the things I've argued about is the need for collaborative conversations. Conversations that we build on each other's ideas. I've done a video on why this is a Christian approach. I've done a video on how we as individuals can engage in collaborative conversations. And it occurred to me that to make those videos more useful for some organization or church that wants to do collaborative conversations, it'd be nice to have a video on how do you lead these discussions. Because my vision is that we have people who have these small groups that discuss issues and that work these issues out. So this is a very practical video. It's probably not going to be controversial. Probably will be since I said that. But it's very how-to that I can send to people if they really want to know how do you lead these discussions in a small group. All right? So let's go on. How do I envision these small groups? I think there's a certain etiquette that comes into play that would maximize the value of the conversations that are at hand. That etiquette would do something like this. You would have people come by and arrange the group. And then as a discussion leader, if you're leading a discussion, you want everyone to go around and give their opinion on a topic that's been predetermined. I have workbooks that have some of these topics, but you can find other topics. A topic that should be controversial, where people have a disagreement. So everyone goes around and they discuss this topic. Then someone else, hopefully someone who disagrees with them, would say in their own words what that person's idea on the topic is. We call this active listening. So if someone's talking about some point of view, let's say on whether or not we should have hate crimes legislation, and they favor it, ideally someone who does not favor it would say, okay, here's what I hear you saying, and they would discuss that. We want this for everyone to go around. And then ideally we would try to find where we have agreement. We've heard everyone, and it seems like everyone agrees about this, or everyone agrees about that. That's very useful because we want to find areas we already agree upon. And then we have a discussion. Now, in the discussion, the person has to show that they understand where there are people that they disagree with come from. And then, once they've shown that, then they would give clarifying comments or where they disagree. Then ideally, at the end of this discussion, we revisit what do we agree upon. Are there compromises we can make that would help us to come closer together? Perhaps I'm willing to give something that I used to support if you give something that you used to support so that we can have common agreement. Collaborative conversation is a mechanism by which we try to find agreement, not capitulation, but agreement. Find where we agree and expand that agreement. In an ideal setting, and I know this does not always happen, and maybe it happens less time than not, we would agree so much that we would have very little disagreement. But even if we don't reach that type of level, we at least understand people who disagree with us much better and where we could try to possibly find agreement. That's the basic etiquette that, as a leader, if you're leading a discussion like this, you need to figure out how you're going to lead it in that way. That's the etiquette that I'm talking about, that would best serve us in doing collaborative conversation. So, as a leader, if you're leading such a group, you want to make sure that you've gone over these sort of rules. You want to make sure that people are aligned to what this discussion is going to be about. It's not just about talking, although it is about that. It's also about listening and understanding and coming to an agreement. So you want to go through, we don't interrupt people. We wait for them to finish. We don't insult people. We can insult ideas. I think this idea is bad because such, so and on. But we never say, how can you do that? You're a bad person. You're a bigot. You're woke. You're whatever for doing that. We don't do that within that cloud conversation. You want to go over rules like that. Any other rules that permits better conversations, that permits an openness, to an understanding. And you want to do this before you even start engaging in any sort of conversations. Your role is to create an environment where people can be open enough to say how they feel and to listen to others. So it's very important that you do that yourself. If you're a leader of these discussions, you also have a role to play in how you feel about the issue, listening to others. You're going to have a challenge because some people want to dominate the conversation. Others won't get into it at all. So as a leader, what you need to do is you need to identify those who are dominant and learn how to tactfully sometimes curtail a little bit of their dominance. And also to find out those who are not wanting to talk or unwilling to talk or too shy to talk. And ask them directly how they feel about an issue. Everyone has to engage for this to work. Your role is to create that environment to allow that to happen. Sometimes a person may violate the etiquette, may say something that could be insultive. Finding tactful ways to address that, because you don't want to lose that person either. Find tactful ways to address that is part of what you're going to have to do. And you have to think about ahead of time, what if someone says something, what if someone calls someone a bigot? You may have to say, we discussed that we can attack ideas, we're not going to attack people. If you want to say that idea is bigoted, yeah, that's fine. That's okay. But you don't know this person well enough to say that they're a bigot, right? So let's try to stay away from that. Because we don't want this to degenerate into name calling. You may have to find tactful ways of addressing those issues like that. Now, there are challenges along the way. I want to look at giving you some tools on how to handle these challenges. A lot of times when we get in these conversations, things are black or white. We think of them as one way or the other. And the problem with that is a lot of times there's nuance that we have to learn about. And talking about nuance and allowing people to see the nuance in their situations often will help people to accept ideas that normally they would reject. That everything's not all one way or the other. Let me illustrate this. Nuance and balance. We tend to think that things can be all good or all bad, but sometimes the things that were good we could take too far is bad, and some of the bad things actually can be kind of good. Let me give you some examples. Love. Now, we think love as being something that's always good, and it is pretty good. But too much love, could that not turn into codependency? That's what we worry about, right? Or justice. I mean, I want justice. If I'm wrong and I want, it to be addressed, I want people who are guilty to be punished and innocent be let free, right? But have we not seen calls for justice lead to revenge? Tolerance. I want to be tolerated. You don't have to agree with me on everything. I want to be tolerated. Yeah, that's cool. But too much tolerance could be a license to evil. Do we really want to tolerate someone who engages in murder? Someone who advocates destroying other people's lives? Probably not. Hard work. Yes, hard work is great. Hard work helps us to get ahead. I try to work hard myself. But too much hard work can become an obsession. An obsession to make things successful, an obsession to work and forget the better things of life. To say at the end of your life, you're not going to care about how hard you worked. You're going to care about other things. So I'm not dismissing hard work, but too much of it can be a problem. You should think about some of these things because nuance is going to be your ally. Some of the people in your group are going to come off, oh, I can't see how this could be good. And thinking ahead, well, it could be in the right circumstances, or I can't see how doing too much of this could be bad. Once again, thinking about it in the right circumstances helps people to say, okay, maybe I need a little bit of nuance, and my position, my absolute position, may not be always correct. Sometimes in these discussions, people use talking points. They use points they've heard from someone else, they've heard from a politician or a community leader or a spiritual leader, and they've not really thought through these talking points. So what happens when you suspect someone's just giving you ideas they've heard from someone else and not thought deeply about it? Let me offer you some questions that you can use to help people get past these talking points. First question: how has this issue personally impacted your life? This is a question to help people to think not just about a talking point, but personally, has this issue impacted their life? And in what way, how? Maybe it's not. Maybe it has. But this personalizes it. Another one: what do you think those who disagree with you want? There's another way to get past talking point. Because now they have to think about not just what they're saying, but what other people who disagree with them might be saying. How to deal with that disagreement. And have they really heard that disagreement? Do they know what that disagreement is? What do they want? And this is a great way because if they're wrong, if they've not been active listening, then someone else in the group can correct them and say, no, that's not what we want. Here's what we want. And finally, what do you need to learn from those you disagree with? Do you know everything? Are you prepared to say, okay, I know everything y'all understand and your points and you're wrong? Or what do you need to learn? Part of what we want to cultivate is curiosity. Curiosity as to why do these people who believe something that I disagree with so much, why do they believe it? What's up with that? And this gets us out of the attack mode, which is very defeating for collaborative conversations. We don't want to attack. We want to ask, why? Why do you believe this? And asking that doesn't mean you have to automatically change your belief. You may not. But it gives you insight into how others think. And we have a chance to talk to them about it. If you want to convince them, knowing how they think and why gives you an important tool. So this helps us to get past some of these talking points. Now, one thing I want to also say is sometimes we get stuck in conversations and people are intrinsic. People are hard in their positions and they're not willing to make any adjustments. I want to offer you a tool for dealing with that as well. And that's to help people see the big picture. We get stuck because we're unwilling to see the big picture. We just see what's ahead, and by golly, we know we're right. And so we're not going to change. Oftentimes we need to see a big picture. So we're looking at this small issue here. How's it connected to the reality? We're discussing, well, I know that this police officer engaged in this crime here against this person of color. So we gotta address the situation, which we may well have to do. But are the ways you're going to address it, how's it going to affect everything? Is it going to make policing more dangerous? Is it going to make police more hesitant to intervene in situations we want them to intervene in? Think large-scale scope. Think about the big picture. And then you can come back down to that particular situation or how we're going to handle this. Helping people to see a vision. And what's the future going to look like? You may get what you want immediately. Are there consequences of that on down the line? If you take away the rights of one group right now, when they get power, can they then take away your rights? Big picture thinking often helps us to get past these impasses and helps us to get past our loggerheads where we think, I got to have it this way. I can't see anything good in what you're doing. Thinking big picture often helps us to think, oh, I hadn't really considered that before. These are some tools that I think can help you in dealing with these conversations. I know it can be very nervous dealing with these conversations. I have some experience doing this in my research and just in doing small group types of stuff, and I still get nervous. That's okay. You have tools. You won't always do everything correctly. You'll make mistakes. Really, in these discussions, you'll make mistakes. Sometimes the type of mistakes where you say, please forgive me, I apologize. Sometimes they're not that, and you just move on. What you want to do is keep focusing on developing your skill in leading conversations and the skill of others, which will help them have a better experience at collaborative conversation and to learn how to de-escalate conflict. And if you don't do everything you want, but people are more skillful and conflict is de-escalated, consider yourself a success. And even if you don't get there, if you feel like you're just a little bit closer to having a better conversation, consider yourself a success and a necessary part of leading groups so we have a better type of collaborative conversation. I normally end by saying I hope to share some paradigms, but this is more of a how-to thing. So I hope this, instead of saying sharing paradigms, I hope this better equipped you for the challenges that lie ahead. If you like discussing this topic or others, check out my channel and feel free to subscribe, give a like, give me some advice on how I can do a better job of teaching about these sort of skills. A question you may have. If you don't like it, tell me why. Please come back, check out some of my other videos, and next time I really will try to shatter some paradigms.